It's time for another top 5 video. I love making these top 5 videos. They're funny and informative, and they go over a lot of different information that you guys can find useful. Today's video is going to talk about how to playtest for a new format way ahead of time, or even on time. You know, BT8 is coming up really soon. BT7 is sort of ending. However, I feel that it might be beneficial to get ahead of the BT8 curve. Some people already are, and I kind of want to get there, since BT7 is basically over anyway. So in this video, I'm going to go over 5 things you should do when playtesting for a new format in order to maximize the value of your playtesting. And if you find this video enjoyable, funny, hilarious, and informative, like it, leave me a comment, let me know what you think, and subscribe to notification on the Smash Potatoes. That way you know when all these Digimon videos come out. With that, let's go to point number 1. You need to decide how you're actually going to playtest. Are you going to use online tools like Tabletop Simulator, or are you going to use paper? I posted a tweet the other day with my proxy stack that I printed out from my paper in order to put them in decks and such. By the way, follow me on Twitter. Do that. Anyway, so if you look at like my Mastermon cards, for instance, these are all like proxies. This Mastermon is a sheet of paper. It's literally a sheet of paper on top of another card. You know what I mean? You should definitely figure out how you're gonna do it. I don't like Tabletop Simulator at all. I find it just incredibly difficult to use, and it's not really for me. I'd rather be holding the cards in my hand. I'm more tactile that way. So I'm printing out proxies, put them in decks, and building decks so I can test like the cards actually exist. But some people might respect Tabletop Simulator too, and that's okay. Moral of the story, find a way to play a test. Good value, great value is what we're looking for. So whatever makes that easier for you. Number 2, we are going to talk about a spreadsheet. Anyone that knows anything about me knows that I love spreadsheets. I love data, I love numbers, I love data and numbers. They're really fun. So I'm going to show you guys what I built for BT8 playtesting. I used to use this back in the day when I was taking Yu-Gi-Oh seriously, and I'm sure a spreadsheet like this helped me get all the top 8 regionals and such that I got. So hopefully you guys find this enjoyable and useful. So over here we have a spreadsheet. It's got 3 different tabs. It's got match tracker down here, which you all can see. We got important notes, which go over just important notes about your matchups. And deck lists, which I'm not going to spoil these two. But take a look at the match tracker here for a second. I have 15 decks here. And the same 15 decks are up here. Basically, you just record the number of games you play against a certain deck and how many wins. And it's really that simple. You know, I even started putting pictures in front of these names, but I got lazy. Regardless, this is going to help determine an objective truth about decks on deck action in this format. That sounded really weird. And you'll be able to identify what decks do better against other decks, and then eventually you can create pivot tables and other forms of data manipulation so you can see what decks are actually doing the best. And this will go into a tangent where you can use this data for all sorts of reasons. Like, for example, myself being a content creator, I could make an objective tier list. Now, okay, let's talk about this for a second. Tangent Mario time.
Tangent functions.
Hot take Mario time, where Mario becomes unleashed and just lets out all the steam here. I hate tier lists. I think they are garbage. I think they are just not friendly, and I think they are entirely subjective, which is why I stay away from tier lists entirely. However, when I have something like a spreadsheet that objectively keeps track of everything, then you can make a good tier list, because everything is just there. Everything is a mathematical number set in stone. I'll hear some YouTubers talk like, oh, this deck has a 60-40 on this deck, or 70-30 on this deck. You know, random ambiguous numbers like that, which might be kind of accurate, but it's definitely not as accurate as hard, recorded, calculated, tested numbers.
Facts don't care about your feelings.
You know, I want to be able to say, you know, okay, well, the red version of Black War Greymon BT8 has a 66% win rate on the black version of Black War Greymon. And then I can use that information to make a tier list if I want to make a tier list. I'm not saying I'm making a tier list. I don't like tier lists. This is no vindication that I'm making a tier list. But I do think it's important to have a spreadsheet because it does give you objective numbers, which are good to have. Because sometimes you need a little bit of objectivity in your life. It can't all be subjective. So yeah, Build a spreadsheet, record your results, and use it to write down deck lists and important notes about matchups and everything. That way you have a working diary and glossary of what's going on, what works, and what doesn't work, and you can use that data to improve your gameplay and improve your deck building skills, and improve your matchups that are a little bit weaker. But yeah, that's it. You know, the whole point of this spreadsheet is to get hundreds to thousands of games, as long as people start using it that I assigned to use it. Hopefully they start using it. The spreadsheet at the time of recording this video is 2.5 days old. Not a lot of data has gone into it so far, but you know, by the end of it, it's going to have hundreds of games. And then that gives us a good sample size of what's going on. At least it's better than, like, you know, under 100 games, right? Point number 3. You need to be trying different decks. I think that's incredibly, incredibly valuable. You cannot play the same deck. Sure, I have no problem if you want to brand yourself, like, for example, take Max Tapera, who should be a green player, or take Joe Dobby, who's a resident purple player. It's okay to have your colors and your niches, and that's fine. However, you know, you need to pick a certain color, like, and not stick with it. You need to pick a color of a deck that you like, maybe as a fan favorite, as a pet project, as something you really want to take seriously, and that's fine. But you have to pick other decks too. You have to test other decks. It's incredibly important, it's vital, it's imperative. You need to have all that girthy, huge, thick playtesting against other decks, with other decks. You know, if you want to pick a deck to favorite, that's fine, but you gotta play other decks against that deck so you can see how that deck fares against the deck you really want to play, and maybe learn a little bit about the machinations and how to actually counter the deck. You learn what parts of that matchup are pivotal and how to capitalize on those. That's why you need to play other decks, so you get experience and so that you know how to beat those other decks. You know, it's one thing to have someone playing you with other decks, sure, but if you can play those decks yourself and figure out what exactly they do right and how they do it, that gives you a much more strategic advantage when building a deck to counter those decks. Number 4, you have to be open to criticism, because you're not going to be perfect, especially when starting off a brand new format of playtesting. You'll make mistakes. The people you test with will make mistakes. Things are still relatively set, you know, not in stone. Sure, we have Japan as a baseline, but our Japan BT8 format and our English BT8 format are going to be completely different formats because of ban list interactions. So nothing is set in stone. You have to try new things. You have to try new positions. You have to try new deck choices, tech choices, stuff.
I'm stuff.
OMG, no.
New crispy pretzel chicken fries at Burger King.
And then when things are not working, you need to be able to either self-critique or have someone else tell you, hey man, this is shit, don't do it. Or tell yourself that. Or maybe constructive criticism is better, like, hey, so that tech card worked really, really good, but it's definitely not good against this matchup. Be able to take criticism, because if you can't take criticism, you won't be able to learn from your mistakes. If you can't learn from your mistakes, you're going to have a hard time learning the format. Because at the end of the day, it's a one big learning experience. You have to be able to just learn everything you can before tournaments start. And this leads us to point number 5. You need to try new things. You actually have to try new things. You know, I'm okay with preconceived notions, right? You know, BT8 Japan, we know that Mastermon's going to be good. We know that Imperial is going to be good. We know Armor Rush is going to be good. And we know that Black War Greymon is going to be, you know, pretty decent. However, that doesn't stop you from actually trying new things. Maybe you want to try a new engine in one of those tier 1 decks, like the Cerberusmon engine in Mastermon, for example. Seems pretty hot. It's okay to base things off of the Japan format to a certain extent, as long as you're not taking over the banned cards or limited cards we have over here. But you also need to, you know, try something else. Because the format, we've never had a format in this game that has just stayed the same throughout. Even take BT5, the Eternal Lord Knight format, because BT6 kept getting delayed. And Lord Knight variants were changing. Like, it wasn't just Lord Knight Slash. You know what I mean? There were variations of the engine. And there were variations on decks built to counter Lord Knightmon too. You know, things came out of nowhere. Things came out that were unexpected. And that's okay. But you gotta try them in the first place, because if you don't, you're never gonna see it. At the end of the day, we all just wanna have fun. So try fun things. Try new things. And you never know, it might just work. That's all for this top 5 video. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Let me know what you think of these videos in general, because I think they're pretty hot AF. And we'll see you later. Bye!